Arthur.
Arthur, middle name?
Arthur Robert
Oh.
Bartolozzi Jr.
Oh. Okay, I'll stop talking now.
So we're going to have to get that into the interview because I'd love to hear about Arthur Sr. They call you Arthur Sr.
I know, it's only because of the fact that there are three of us in the same room and they're trying to decide, but
Yes.
my dad was really senior.
Yes. And we have a similar thing in my family. I'm the third. So my dad is really junior,
He's junior.
but everyone always calls him senior.
I know, just to
Because
differentiate.
To distinguish between myself and him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I do when we're in company with when young Art is there.
Yeah.
Younger Art, I mean, I'm senior actually. I mean,
Sure.
if you just look, you could tell I'm senior.
When fourth is there,
The fourth, well, that would have been really a problem, right?
so well for us it was like Little Cliff and Big Cliff.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah?
You get those.
So you're Big Art.
You get those names. You know, they stick with you later on.
Yeah.
Hey, Art the Fourth.
Yeah.
I don't know. We always thought that was nice to have Arthur the Fourth, and I jokingly asked Art one day. I said, Art, Arthur the Fourth. I said, Arthur, suppose you have someday you have a child and you have a boy. You think there's a chance you're gonna keep the thing going or what?
Yes, I love it.
I don't even know what he answered that time. I just think
That's hilarious.
it was really funny.
Well, he must have thought long and hard about it and did it. Oh, so I have some questions here, and then we don't have to stick to the script necessarily, but I'll just start on it, and then we'll just take it wherever it goes.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Art. How are you this morning?
I'm great.
Excellent.
How are you doing?
Good. Good. So you were just telling me that that you are Arthur Jr.
Yes.
So your father?
He was Arthur Sr.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your dad.
My dad, Arthur Sr., he came from Italy. He was an immigrant. He came over, I think he was about 16 or 17 years of age. And came to America because his parents thought that maybe the land of promise and so forth coming to the USA. And he came to this country at age 17, and he got here, and then from there on he got to know people. And at the time he came, his sisters came with him, 2 sisters and a brother. His name was Edward. So my dad, he got here and he looked for work. It's the first thing you do, look for work in this country, and figured that this was where he could make his life, maybe eventually, and he got a job. So
Did he come to New Jersey?
he came to New Jersey. Actually, he landed at Ellis Island, and then he came right to Trenton.
Okay.
Trenton, New Jersey, because there were a segment of people who had come before him, friends, relatives, cousins, and they sort of migrated there.
Yeah.
Trenton was like a central point.
Okay. And what kind of work did he do?
Actually, he was freelance, I would say. He took a job. His first job, he always told the story, was with Acme Rubber. Acme Rubber is an old rubber company in Trenton, and he was assigned to working in the tire making business. He was making tires for Acme Rubber, and he said he was the highest paid person there.
How about that?
And he was making $7 a week.
Wow. Times have changed, huh?
Times have changed. We often talked about that, you know.
Yeah, I think minimum wage is now $7 an hour. So.
Yeah.
So how do you think being the child of immigrants shaped who you are today?
Well, I guess at the outset it might have been a little difficult because, for one thing, I had a language barrier. I went to first grade and I couldn't speak English.
So Italian was spoken in
Yeah,
your home.
Italian was the dominant language, and actually, I'm really happy that happened because even today, I can read, write, and do everything in Italian because once you learn it, and it's probably the best way to learn the language.
Yeah.
With parents that just speak
Yeah.
language,
You just pick it up.
and you pick it up, whether it be French or whatever. But I think it was really a gift, really.
So English isn't your first language. Italian really is.
So then later on, naturally, I picked up. I don't know. I was never. Nobody ever kidded me about that, but maybe I probably had a little bit of accent. Who knows?
Sure, sure. And then as you got older, and obviously you learned to speak English, but your parents were still immigrants. Did that shape how you grew up and the choices that you made as far as schooling?
Oh, as far as grade school,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so, but could have had some influence.
Yeah.
Of course, we belonged to an Italian parish in Trenton, and that was St. Joachim's, and that's where my parents were married. So the only influence we had, I guess, they did have Italian activities, and I didn't go to that school, the grade school, and I went to a nearby school, but that's about the extent of it. I mean, I don't think it affected where I went.
Did a lot of your peers go to college?
My peers, yeah, just about my friends and so forth. College was was not a prerequisite, but it was something that everybody desired to do.
Yeah.
But cost of living and availability and funds and cost, not much different than it is today, actually.
So where would it be typical for one of your classmates in high school? Where would they have gone to college?
Well, they went to various schools. Some went to St. John's in New York, Fordham. Some went to Philadelphia schools. I chose to go to Georgetown. I sort of had some information about Georgetown. I looked at different places, but it so happened even a close friend of mine at the school, at the high school, Trenton Catholic Boys High School, we decided maybe in our sophomore, junior year that we'd like to go to Georgetown. And that we were going to make a trip and go down and visit the school, which we did. That's how it evolved.
Yeah. Now, you played basketball at Georgetown.
Yes.
And did you go there with the intention of playing basketball, or was that...
Well, it was not my immediate desire. I played basketball in high school, and I played basketball in grammar school, but when I went to college, I really didn't think I was going to do that, but I got into the system, and then finally I ended up playing there.
Yeah. Any great stories from your basketball playing days at Georgetown?
Well, I can only say that it was a very inspiring and probably very, eventful time of my life because we got to travel a little with the team, and the only thing that was really difficult was the fact that we had to, you had to be a student and you had to participate in sports, so that made it difficult. And I say even today, if you're doing sports, it just doesn't work because it takes too much out of you. And when I talked to my son, Art, when he was thinking about school, and I told him about that. And I think sports are fine, but they should be, maybe you use them as an aside, as a sideline. Just if you want to just participate, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you get into a regimented routine every day of practice and so on and so forth, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. So what did you study at Georgetown?
I took a science course. Chemistry was my major.
Okay.
And
Now, how did you meet your wife?
well, we lived in Trenton. I was born right there in the same place, the same house. So I was actually right there in Trenton all the time. My wife also was born in Trenton. So their family, very much similar story like ours, had come from Italy. and they ended up in Trenton, not too far from where we live.
Yeah.
I would say maybe 3-4 blocks away.
How about that?
And we went to the same schools, and I went to her brother, Marianne's brother, went to the same high school. We were in the same class. So I got to meet Marianne because of of her brother, and because of my sister Gloria, who went to an all-girls school. In those days, all-girls schools, all-boys schools are very dominant. That's the way it was. Then they became integrated later on. And now, as a matter of fact, Trent Catholic is no longer there. Cathedral High School, where the girls went, is no longer there. But we met during high school activities.
So they would have maybe a dance that...
They would have dances and so on and so forth. But that was the end of it. When I went to Georgetown, to speed up a little the history, I went to Georgetown. I was home on leave or vacation, and Marianne was involved in getting to a dance, a Christmas ball, and she had talked to her cousin, who was a friend of the family, our family, and she says, I'd like to go to the dance, but I don't have a date. So her cousin said, well, you ask Art Bartolozzi. I think he's home for the holidays. Oh, she said, do you think he would go with me? So he said, well, no, give it a try. So sure enough, she calls me, and we chit-chat for a while, and she says, I have this dance to go to. I was wondering if you'd be interested in going with me. I said, I'd love to go, And later on, I said, I don't know about that. But I said, well, so I said, well, I'll go. Sure, why not? And we went to this dance and had a great time. And to top it off, she was picked as queen of the ball. So it was a plus. And here I was up on a stage with the flowers, the whole works, and I guess I was a king.
You were the king.
And she was the queen. And it was really an exciting time. So that's the way we met. And,
that's great. Now, after that, how did things develop? You went back to school?
I went back to school and got involved in what I was doing, and that was the end of that. She was going to school, and that's the way it happened, and nothing happened after that. And we corresponded a few times, and, nothing serious.
Well, something must have happened because looking back from my perspective, something must have happened at some point. So what happened?
Well, it did, and I mean, it was such a complex situation. Upon graduation, I went for a trip to California with my parents, and while I was out there, because we liked it, we liked Southern California, we liked San Diego, we just fell in love with the place. But we had all this responsibility back in Trenton. So we met some friends out there who happened to be friends of our family, my parents' side. So they invited me to stay if I wanted to stay a little longer. And I said, yeah, that'd be a great idea. Well, my parents didn't really think that was a good idea, but they said, okay, for a short period, it'd be great. So I stayed on, and then I stayed for a little longer, and then I was not coming home for a while.
How long do you think that was in total?
Oh, I think about a year or so, because I lived there in San Pedro, California.
Okay.
And we had relatives in the whole area.
Now, were you working at that time, or what were you doing?
I was not working at the time, but I just stayed there for a while, and I just freelanced, I would say. And I did get involved with a few groups, like youth groups and things like that.
So eventually, somehow your journey led back to Trenton.
Well, it did lead back to Trent because my sister graduated from St. Elizabeth in northern New Jersey. So she said, Art, it'd be a great idea to come back for my graduation. I'd like to have you there. And I said, well, it's a difficult thing, maybe. And I felt very, sad about not being there. So I said, okay, I'll definitely come. So that's what happened. I came back to New Jersey.
For your sister's graduation?
Yeah, right. so I came back and, well, I got in touch. I called Mary Ann. She called me. You know, things happen like that, and we start dating. Then I guess you would call it.
Sure.
And so then we got married eventually. And
So you came back to Trenton and you stayed.
I stayed.
Yeah. Okay. So in those early days when you guys were first married, what kind of work were you doing at that time?
Well, I was working as a city chemist in the city of Trenton.
So you're using your chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in the food lab, and we did water analysis and things like that. It was very interesting work.
Yeah. And what were your parents? Were they still in Trenton at that time?
Yes, they lived there until the demise because I was born there, and they had the house from day one, and I guess they had it till the very end. And
so you get married, you're working for the city of Trenton, and children come along?
yeah, Arthur came along, but from the city of Trenton, I went into the state of New Jersey. I moved up and got involved with the environmental protection agency type work and the state of New Jersey Health Department.
Okay.
And Arthur came along, and then our children came along, and before you know, we had a full-fledged family of three, right? We were three,
Yeah.
and two, we were five. And then later on, when I moved to Cherry Hill, because of the job offer, I became the health officer in New Jersey. I was a licensed health officer, and I took the job as director of health in Cherry Hill, which was an upcoming new area, and I thought it was a good place to look into. I was not happy being in Trenton. Trenton was a strictly industrial type of city, and it was sort of starting to take a drop. I didn't have the types of situations in education wise, and I felt that I needed a change.
Yeah.
And then when I heard about Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which was relatively a new area, it was a township under 38,000 people, and then it became a pretty large city. Now it got up to be about 75, 80,000 people. But in that interim, I was working there, and we were very happy to make the move. My children were not happy to make that move because it was a change.
Sure.
But I looked at the education part of it. They had been ranked as one of the best schools and systems in the country, actually, very high rank, and that sort of got my eye, and I thought it was best for the family.
So there was a lot of appealing things about that move. I mean, the new nature of the area was growing. And
Yeah, I liked that part. It was it was like a conceptual thing. I could see the fact that it would grow and it would be a better place.
Yeah.
And it sure did happen that way.
Yeah,
Because when we got here, new friends, knew everything, you know.
Yeah. And education played into that as well.
Education is very important. And with the new location, new housing, new everything, we had a new baby.
Ha-ha.
And enter Fabian.
Yep.
So then we were set. We had 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. Okay. Daddy has to get another job, go to work.
So tell me a little bit about those days in Cherry Hill. That was in this home.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we purchased this new home.
Yeah.
This is a new home, it was a model home. And all of this area was just loaded with apple trees and cherry trees all around the place. It was very rural, very out, you know, it was not much here. Because we went from 38,000 to about 75,000 people.
Yeah.
But it was in the development stage. There were new housing developments going up all the time.
How old were the kids when you moved to Cherry Hill?
Well, Arthur was just going into high school, and he was, I'm sure he was about 13, 14.
Okay.
And the other children just about 2 years apart, and down the line.
The order is Arthur's the oldest,
Yeah.
and then Maria.
Elise.
Elise is next,
Yes.
and then Maria. And
Maria, and then Fabian, right?
Then okay. So Fabian probably only remembers this home.
Yeah, he was born here, and the kids really welcomed him into the family. They really, if I could tell you some of the things they did to that poor little guy.
Like what?
They used to run around this circle like this, and they would always tease him. He was like a big play dog for them, a pet. And they would take pillows and just skin them along the floor and trip him as he ran. Oh God, they were piling on him. They treat him pretty roughly.
What's the age difference between Fabian and Maria?
Let's see. I had to think about it.
Yeah.
I would say at least 10, 12 years, maybe.
Yeah, sure. So they were all excited to have a little brother.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So the kids grew up here and went to school here, and did it turn out like you had thought, that the education was good here?
Well, it really confirmed what I thought, and then when everything I had imagined and projected, and I talked to different people, and everybody assured me that this was for real. This is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And the housing was good, the tax rate, and the amenities that go along with good housing, good planning. The planning board was very stringent about what went up and how high the buildings had to be. I mean, it was really a well-run and documented operation.
Yeah.
So we thought that the school system being what it is and what it was going to be, we welcomed that. We thought that was great.
Now, I understand that your sister was a teacher.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering how your sister being a teacher influenced, your thoughts of education and your children's education.
Well, I think she was a definite influence on my children, because she always espoused the idea that education was so important. And she always mentioned that. She always made it known. And she admired the children for being academically inclined. They were really good working, and they were really progressing. They showed signs of being able to do it, and they did the work.
Yeah.
So she influenced them by what she was doing. She received her master's. She did languages. She did French and Spanish. She was fluent in both languages, and she had won quite a few accolades at school, promotions, and so the children, I think, were impressed by what she was doing.
Yeah. So Arthur's coming through high school, and he's looking at you as an example of, you had gone to college, and I assume that he probably just assumed that he would go to college. How did that all play out with him going to school?
Well, when he was born, and he was able to walk and talk, my father used to tell him, "You're going to be a doctor." And it was funny because he bought him a little bag. I get emotional thinking about it, but he really did a good job. And so we always talked about that. I mean, it wasn't something we forced, but we talked about the idea of going on to college and doing something with your life. And when he went to school, he was a great student. He was always a very good student from day one. He was very aggressive. He had a drive, and he was also an all-around athlete. I mean, he was a good mix. He was not one-sided with the books, because even in grammar school, he excelled in basketball. He did a lot of things in sports. He liked doing activities, camping, and things like that. So when he got to high school, he got involved in a few clubs, and he was on the baseball team, and he played some basketball, and he played tennis. So he was an all-around person. He liked high school. He did real well. He graduated at the very top of his class, and he would take. When you talk to him after an exam or a test, he would say, "Oh, I didn't do too well. And he always ended up getting straight A's. So he was really a great student.
So it sounds like you didn't have to really inspire him to go to college. He was headed that way.
He was going to go to college, and then when it came time to go to college, we did the usual, review of schools and where he'd like to go. And I told him that there were some nice schools in the area. There's Penn and Villanova and Notre Dame, and then there was St. Joe's, and we went through the list like everybody does. And
I didn't hear Brown on that list.
no, Brown was not on that list.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'll tell you what happened. He made a few applications, but in the interim, or during that time, he received, because of his standing in school and so forth, he received a student scholarship at Notre Dame, a free ride for 4 years.
Wow.
So I said, Art, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
God, Notre Dame. And he said, well, he said, I don't know, we're going to look around. Look around. This is beautiful. I couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was only a working man. He got a scholarship.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, let's take a trip out there. We're going to look at the school. We'll see how you like it.
Yeah.
So we went out there, and we loved it. I mean, we got off the turnpike. I don't know where it was, but I think the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and then the last exit, the toll booth was painted in blue and gold.
It was a sign.
I said, I can't believe this. You could almost hear the Victory March song,
Yeah.
as we were driving over there. So we got to the school. We were really impressed. And we got there. There was a game that day, and the people were just all over the place. We went to the bookstore. We got lost in that big crowd of the bookstore, all the ND symbols and sweaters and all that. So we bought a lot of stuff anyway. We looked around. We talked to students. And the first guy we talked to, because I said to him, I said, why don't you ask a few questions and ask the kids on the campus how they like it here? So we did that. The first guy we got, this is really something. We went up to this, we saw this young fellow walking. He said, hey, we're thinking of coming. My son's thinking of coming. How do you like it here? What's the story? Is it a great school? Is it really as nice as it is, And it turned out, the guy told us what he liked it. He was the captain of the football team. He was the captain of the football team.
You asked the right guy.
I couldn't believe it. So we couldn't believe it. So we came back home, and then we started reviewing and things like that. He said, Dad, I like it a lot. He said, but, he says, you know what? And I had told him this later on. I said, there's a couple schools up in New England are worth looking at too. I said, Yale and so forth. I said, and Brown. I said, it's a nice school. I said, I'd recommend, if you were going to not go anywhere, Brown is a very good school.
Yeah.
And he said, Brown, yeah. He said, you recommend? I said, yeah. I said, I know a couple people who went there and they're happy. And he said, well, I don't know. So then he decided to go there. And I said, oh my, what did I do? So he applied. There were 11,000 applicants. 11,000 applicants. Wow. And they told him, it's a tough school to get into. You got to have it, because you got to have more than just academics. So he was really concerned about it. And out of 11,000, he got in. And I said, oh boy, it's going to be another tuition now, right? But I'll tell you, he loved it, every minute of it. And he was so excited about going there. I had the Chrysler SUV or station wagon loaded up. We loaded to the hilt when we went to school that day, and we emptied the thing up there all over the lawn. It was really a crazy affair up at the university when we went up. And the kids, they were all excited with him, and my children, we all went up there. And he was very attached to the family, and he felt a little funny about leaving, it's the first time. But it was a good move because he enjoyed Brown, and Brown did a lot for him. It did everything it's supposed to, and he really embraced it. He went for it, and so much so that I was always concerned about the work being so much.
Mm.
But he was graduated summa cum laude.
Wow.
And I said, you got all A's. He says, yeah. And he thought nothing of it. I said, wow. I said, then I reflect back. He did the same thing in high school. I'm thinking, boy, this guy, he's amazing. How's he do it?
Yeah.
He was a driver.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. You were talking earlier, we were talking about Georgetown. You were talking about how difficult it was to balance playing sports with your education. And I know a little bit of the history, but tell me what happened with art and sports at Brown.
Oh, well, he was an athlete all the time. He was a great athlete. He was a great student. So he goes to Brown, and first thing you know, he writes to him. He says, you know what? I'm going to try out for the baseball team, because he was a very good baseball player. And I said, that's great. I said, but it's not, you can't really mix. I said, your purpose, you know what our drive is going to be here, right? We're going to try to get to med school, and we're going to try to do the best we can to get there. Since you like to go there, and you voice your opinion about it, and you would like to do that, and that's going to be your goal in life. I said, that's important. I said, you want to go out for baseball? Fine. So he goes out for baseball, and he does very well. Plays third base, freshman, makes the first team. He's batting all kind of scores, and so he writes me a couple of times. He says, we just traveled to whatever it was, Allentown, went to Pittsburgh, we played them. And I said, all right, you're doing too much traveling. You can't, the purpose of you being there, don't lose sight of that. You have to get to the goal line. So, it's not too bad. He said, but, it works. I work a little harder in the library, and I'm getting it done. I said, no. I said, you're not. I said, you know what? I've been there. I know what it's all about. I said, I've been through that. I traveled with the team. I played basketball, and I used to be tired at night. I was exhausted when I got back to my room. I said, if you're going to go to med school, you got to excel. They're not going to just take you in because you're a nice guy. I said, you're not going to be a New York Yankee third baseman. I said, that'll never happen. Take it from me, you won't be a major leaguer. You're going to be great for Brown, but you're not going to make it. I told him like it was. I was really ticked off. Yeah. I said, all this money, all this time. So he felt very bad about it. You know what? He listened to me. And he told the coach he was not coming back in his sophomore year. The coach badgered him. He talked to him. He tried to get him to come back. He said, we'd like to have you back. We need you. And he stood by what he said he was going to do. And he didn't go. And I told him, I said, he made the right decision. So as a result, it all worked out because from then on, he did very well. He excelled. And like I said, he graduated from there with all A's, and he had to work to do that. The grades did not come to him. He had to work. He worked the Midnight Oil Library a lot of times, all the time, and he put a lot of time in. So when he finally got to apply to medical school, they had a 5-year program up there, and he almost went for that. Good for. And then he said, well, I think I'm going to try different schools and see what happens. He says, it's so hard to get into. And that is another challenge. After undergrad school, you have to go to grad school, you go to medical school. It's like a thing. It's very, very difficult. So because medical schools, I think, as I know it, they don't only look at the student for what he has done academically. I think they weigh everything. They try to get a rounded person and somebody that's going to make a good physician. So he applied to all these schools. He applied to Penn, Yale, all of them. And he says, you know what? I think I like to apply to a Western school too. And I told him, I said, well, the schools are great out there. I said, University of San Francisco, UCLA. I said, great schools. So he said, I'm going to apply. I said, you just keep applying. Go to Georgetown because they have a good med school. I was pushing Georgetown because I was nearby.
Sure.
But I wanted him to make the decision. And you know what? He applied to 8 medical schools, maybe 7. He got into all of them. You don't think that's complicated?
That's quite an accomplishment.
We were ecstatic.
Yeah.
So he ended up saying, I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. And he said, you know what? The tuition out there is outrageous. I mean, around the medical schools. He said, I'm going to apply to California, see if I can get in out there because it's a great school. And but I said, you know, you're from out of state, and they take primarily in-staters, right? People who live there, natives.
Sure.
So anyway, I'm sitting here one day, and all at once the phone rings, and the guy says, "Congratulations." He says, "Is this Arthur Bartolozzi?" I said, "Yes." "Congratulations, you've been admitted to med school."
You must have been thrilled.
I said, "What?" I said, I told him, I said, "It's like winning the national lottery."
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah." I said, then I told him, I said, I'm the dad. Art's not here right now. So that's what happened. I was so excited. It was beautiful.
So
And he went out there.
yeah, he ends up going back to San Diego, which is an area that you had spent time in when you
Yeah.
were younger.
When I was out there, and I love San Diego, I told him, I said, "Boy, it's a beautiful country." I said, "There's only one problem with it. If you go out there, you may not come back." I said, "Because that's like God's country out there." I always advertise San Diego forever. I just love the state of California.
Yeah.
And well, he liked it too. And he had some great friends out there. And, you know, he had to make decisions. And that was a difficult time for him too.
Yeah.
And but the idea that he was going to, and I forgot to tell you that out of all the students that they picked out there were only 2 were accepted from this area, from out of state. 2.
Wow.
He was one of them
Yeah.
in New Jersey, and the other guy was up in New York, who ended up being his roommate out there.
How about that?
So of the class, they were the only 2 people outside.
Wow.
That was another, you know, I couldn't understand how that was happening. I said, there's a power greater than us that's directing traffic somewhere. But that was good. And we embraced that. We enjoyed that. We thought that was great. The next move was going out there and getting housing and leaving him out there in California a long way. That was a sad time, but we overcame all that. And then we visited frequently, and, you know, things went well. He graduated tops, as usual. And then he had his choice to go wherever he wanted to go. And he says, he told the people there, he said, "I think I'm going to take my my residency in Philadelphia." And they said, "What, Philadelphia? California? You're going to leave here to go to Philadelphia?" And they were all kidding him about that. But he did that, and he was happy for it. He got his fellowship here, and everything else worked out for him.
Yeah. And pick up Elise, Maria going to college. They see their brother go off to
Yeah.
Brown and so forth. So what was their thought process?
Well, what they saw, I think, was a big challenge ahead of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they all knew that. Well, we always endorsed education. We thought that's the way to go, and we always thought that since they were all good students, and they all worked at it, by the way, it was not just something you absorb. They worked at it. That's why they were good students, and I have to attribute that to Mary Ann, who was school teaching, and she had the knowledge and she knew how to do things, and she helped them with their lessons, and she put in a lot more time than I did because I was always traveling and doing something. And she's responsible for their success, really. She did a lot of compositions at the Midnight Oil and all that. The typical, what parents do.
Yeah.
They all do that, but she was doing it, and I was not really that much involved.
Yeah.
I was just trying to be a good cheerleader for them, backing them up, whatever they did. But at least wanted to go to, she graduated, and she decided to go to college, and she went likewise. She looked at different schools, St. Joe's and a couple others in the area, and she ended up going to Villanova. And she wanted. She thought that her desire in life would be to pursue health, public health somehow, and she thought she would go into nursing. And so she did go into nursing and graduated, did very well in nursing, and then went to graduate school, got her master's degree in nursing. So she accomplished what she wanted to do, and she was a very great student also. She did well. So we were really happy. And that was number 2.
Yeah.
And then came Maria, and Maria was an athlete also. And Maria played high school lacrosse, softball, and hockey, and all those sports. And basketball, she excelled in basketball. But she was also a very good student. She worked hard. And I don't know how she did it, through osmosis or what, but she got everything in. All the long workouts, all the long playing around in the fields, and come home late at night, and all the sports continuous, one season to another. So when it came time to select a college, she graduated with honors from East, and was given an award by the school as the student of the year, to that effect. So at a stadium filled about 3,000 people, kids. At that time, tuition, East was really crowded. I think they had like maybe close to 2,500, 3,000 students. It was a big school. So at the awards dinner, which was held in a big open stadium, they announced her name, and I almost fell off the chair. I said, I can't believe it. She did it, she's picking it as the student, top student. So then she told me she wanted to go to school and go to college, and she looked around different schools. And then she decided on pharmacy. So she said, pharmacy is a great field. And I told her, I said, pharmacy is a great field. I said, you can have your hours, you have a regimented program, you're there, and that's it. You don't have to be, worry about going different places. So she went to pharmacy. She went to school at University of Rhode Island. And she went there and got her pharmacy degree.
Did she play sports when she was in school?
She played lacrosse, and she was excellent at it. And she was elected to the New England, I guess they like an All-America program. Sure. And she was elected to that award, and she played lacrosse. And I used to go, I went to a lot of her games. I used to drive up there to go see her play. And that was quite a trip. And I would leave here sometime in the middle of the afternoon and just go up. And
so about a 6-hour drive?
Yeah, it was about 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
So one day I was up there, and she looks down, she goes, Dad, what are you doing here? They were playing Harvard or somebody, I wanted to see the game.
Yeah.
And she was amazed, she was surprised. But she had a difficult time because I was talking about traveling before.
Sure, yeah.
They used to travel to different places with a regular bus for traveling. The lacrosse team. They used to go to Boston. They went down here to the Pennsylvania and different places. I said, Maria, it's too much traveling. So I get it done on the bus, and she was really good at that. Yeah. Now Maria didn't require too much. I guess she absorbed. I don't know how she did it. Yeah. Pull switches and this and that. Yeah. The light went on, and she did well as a student. Yeah. So she gets through pharmacy, which is not an easy course, by the way. It's a difficult course. Yeah. I told her it's a difficult course. It's a 5-year program, I think it was, and I said, I don't know, Maria, it's a tough course. I said, I like it. I think I can do it. And she had good grades at high school and grade school. She did well. She was a good student too. We were blessed. All our children were very good students. So she graduates as a pharmacist. No easy job, but she did it. And she gets a job working here and there in substitute work at first. And she was recruited by different pharmacies, but she was working like for Rite Aid or CVS and different companies. And then after about a year, she came to me one day and says, you know, Dad, I like what I'm doing, but I don't like it. She says, I think I'd like to try medicine. I said, what? I said, you got a job, you got a beautiful setup, you're making a great salary. Yeah. What do you need medicine for? I said, you're gonna do something, you probably, have a family someday. All right, I said, look, you want to do medicine, fine. You go to let's apply to med school. During this time, no, okay, I'll skip. Then she applied to medical school and she got into Rutgers. She applied to different schools and she got into that one, and she took it. So she was really, she was exuberant. She was really excited and couldn't believe it. She got in medical school. We were down on we went to Florida on the little holiday with the family, and she was waiting. She said, I'm waiting for mail. She said, I'm waiting for mail that has to come. It's important mail. It's coming from the university. So it's going to be yes or no. And they told me if I get a fat envelope, that's okay. But if you get a skinny envelope, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. And she said, I'm holding my fingers up.
For the big one.
I said, I'm waiting for a big fat envelope. So we were at the pool just fooling around, jumping in the water and all that stuff. And a guy came over with mail. He said, I have some mail for you, room 498 or something. And looking at it, I said, oh, Maria, there's a letter here from Rutgers. And
was it skinny or fat?
I said, it's fat. Oh, God. I was all excited. By this time, burned out. Yeah. So she got into medical school. Now, her pharmacy really came in to serve her well because as a student, she had some time off. And when she was off in the summer, she could make some money for the following year.
Sure.
So what happened was, she, having had a license in pharmacy, she was able to substitute.
Sure.
So she kept substituting, and she was doing well. She said, it's better than working at a supermarket or a place that I'm doing. The wages are the same wages.
Right.
So she was doing well, saving money, and going to school. One of these recruiters or personnel director for Rite Aid was the appointing authority. He used to call her up and say, Maria, you available for duty tomorrow at 9 o'clock? Can you be there? And Maria, somebody got sick on the job. Can you replace them? And so he was giving her a lot of time, So then they got to the point where they start talking to each other, like, hey, what do you do when you go home at night? Starting to get sociable, like.
Was this guy's name Lou?
And his name was Lou.
Yeah.
End of story, right? So.
I think I see what's coming.
So I thought that was amazing. He was the appointing authority for picking up part-time workers, and he and Lou were. I think somebody actually came to Lou before that and said, Lou, there's a beautiful little girl working at the store number 19, and she's really attractive, a young Italian girl. I think you would really love her. She's beautiful. And why don't you call her up sometime? And then that same person go back to Maria and says, some guy's really interested in you. I think he might call you one of these days. And he was like a go-between, I guess. So sure enough, Lou invites her out to dinner or whatever, and they got together, and the rest is history. But that was another important story I thought was really clever.
So now you have 3 in healthcare, and then here comes Fabian.
Now, Fabian came along, and he was really a godsend because he did so much to our family to boost everybody. They loved him from day one. They just loved him, and he's still a very lovable guy. He's really just a nice guy. So he came along, and and then we had a great family. We're living here. We have the new house, and everybody's doing well.
Awesome. So Fabe ends up going to college.
Yeah, Fabe went through the routine, went to East, Cherry Hill East again.
Yeah.
A great school. I could recommend it to anybody because it's really a great school. And I was just so lucky to move to this town because I moved to an area which was really great. And, you know, believe it or not, they had so many state awards, and they presently getting a lot of state awards and national awards for their education system.
Yeah.
They have a great setup.
Yeah.
So Fabe went to East. He graduated, and he decided to go into engineering. So he applied to Rutgers, and he got into School of Engineering, and finished that program, and did well. Got a job as an engineer, and he was doing ceramic engineering, which was really good. Ceramic engineering was a thing of the future with
Yes.
the heat shields in the
Yes.
space program. He was really into it. He really loved doing that, and he got into it. He had a few jobs going, and he liked engineering. And after being in engineering for a while, he's got the idea that he would try to tie law into engineering with this program. And he told me he'd like to go to law school, and he went to law school at Rutgers. No, I'm sorry, he went to New York Law School.
Mm-hmm.
He applied up there, New York Law School, and he went up to New York and graduated, and then started working in engineering and law. And not too long after that, he wanted to get one more niche, and he moved up to patent law. And he took an exam for patent law, and he became certified in patent law. So he was all set, and he's presently working with a Philadelphia firm, and he's doing very well.
Yeah. So I'm a father. I have 3 children, and I know, and they're, you know, in their young 20s. Your kids are much older. As a father, sometimes you look at your children and you're very proud of them, but times you look at them and you say, wow, I wished I had done something different. Do you ever have moments like that where you're things that you would have done different if you could go back? Or
You know what? I would say, why would I have done it? I felt very blessed in what happened. First of all, our family enjoys very good health. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's in good shape. Marianne is having a setback, but the children did very well. After we made the transition from New Jersey, from Trenton to here, that was a big step. They did very well. They did well in their schooling. They did well with their lives, and they're all professional.
yeah,
So there's nothing I could have done to ameliorate or to make that better.
sure,
I don't know what, you know.
yeah,
They were self-starters too, by the way. That's
Yeah,
what did it.
yeah.
They wanted to do it.
Earlier, you said something that made me think. You said you were working a lot and you weren't able to be around as much. Do you? And obviously, you can't go back and do anything about it. But do you feel like you would have liked to have spent more time with the kids?
Yeah, I think so. I think I lost some very valuable time. And, you know, the time you have with the kids is so limited. And you don't realize that until later on. We have many beautiful times together, going skiing, all the trips, and, you know, we spend a lot of good quality time. But you do miss them after they leave.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, I should have spent more time with them. And it seems like you only have a small window to work with, because after the teenagers, and they go on to college, and after college, that's it.
Yeah.
Once they go to college, I think that's the cutoff right there.
Yeah.
But before college, and you know, right after grade school and college and high school, that's the time to get close with your family. And they always look for you to be there, but there's nothing like that moment, that small window of time.
Sure.
I think that's important. And I tried to give him most time, and the only time I felt bad was when I was away on trips, because I did work with a company, and I think I failed to tell you that. It was a California company, and we were initiators, or probably startup people for extracting methane gas from landfills.
Okay, yeah.
It was a Howard Hughes company located in California. So having had experience with my job
Sure.
as a chemist and working in the health field with the state of New Jersey, and where I did water tables and things like that, they got in touch with me and asked me if I'd be interested. And I did landfills, by the way, for the state of New Jersey.
Sure.
I evaluated them and checked them for gas leakage and decomposition problems.
So it was a natural outgrowth.
It was a
of your
natural.
work.
So
Yeah.
they interviewed me, and they appointed me Eastern manager in New Jersey to run the landfill program for the California firm.
Yeah.
And it was run by Howard Hughes.
How about that?
And what they were doing was entirely new. It was a real earth-shaking startup program. They would inject a pipe into the trash, and it would go down maybe 50, 100 feet, depends how thick or how heavy the landfill was. And this was for a ripe and older landfill, which had begun to decompose, and methane gas was one of the products. And somebody got the idea that if we could take that gas out of the trash and clean it up and scrub it,
Yeah.
we can burn it, and we could use it to turn generators and get electricity. That was a great idea. Great.
Turning trash into energy.
Trash to energy, exactly. So that would cure all this problem. What do you do with the trash?
Sure.
I could go on and on. Can I keep talking?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know how I admitted that. It was very part of my life.
Yeah, we were talking about, you were talking about traveling and not being around.
That was
each
one of the
other.
reasons.
Yeah,
All at once, I find myself commuting from New Jersey to California. Commuting. Like on a day's notice, I had to fly out. And we would go to staff meetings and all that. The company was already trying to do this in California because they have huge landfills out there. Well, we had a lot of them in New Jersey. We didn't even know where they were. So we knew, geographically, we didn't know exactly. So my job was to find them and find out if they were good candidates for extracting gas.
Yeah.
How old they were, how deep they were,
Sure.
and what kind of stuff was dumped into them.
right.
When we did all that, then we had to talk to the owners of the landfill. And this was too far advanced. They couldn't
even.
They couldn't
understand
digest
what you were
it.
talking about.
They
Yeah.
couldn't even digest the idea. What are you talking about?
Right.
I said, we're going to take gas out of the landfill. Never happened.
Right. Yeah. We're doing it.
I said, we're doing it in California right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And my big job was going up to New York, the Great Kills, the world's largest landfill. I got to tell you this story briefly.
Yeah.
Their New York government, the city government, they must have like 92 people that different. They run the government. They're councilmen and representatives of the city and the boroughs, all the boroughs. I had to have all those borough representatives one day for breakfast.
Wow.
I had about 92, close to 100 people, and I had to explain to them what I was trying to do in
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah. You have to simplify it so they can understand it.
Well, the Great Kills, there's a lot of gas there. We figured, well, this is great. They couldn't understand it. I tried to tell them in English, and they could understand. It was really a joke, but I think they understood it. But the only thing is that we didn't do anything there for the time being. And later on, what happened was that Howard Hughes, the founder of this whole thing, dies. And that was sudden. It was terrible. When he died, he was the lifeline. He was the bloodline for this whole operation.
Yeah.
Because he had many other enterprises going
Sure.
too.
Sure.
So they cut off all the supplies, the money, and all that.
Oh boy.
And this company just could not last on the hype. It wasn't like hypothetical, but it was real. But they had to do more advertising. In other words,
Yeah.
inform the people.
Yeah.
And it just didn't do well. The company that finally took over was the New York company, power electric company in New York City, and they took over, and they did exactly what we were doing. Most of the homework was done, and they started extracting gas, and now this day they're extracting gas all over the country.
Yeah.
And the principle, the idea is working.
Right.
And these landfills will produce gas for 30, 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't die. They keep.
Right. They keep churning it out.
So that's the story. That
Yeah.
we were in on the ground floor, but we just didn't have the financial ability to keep going.
It almost sounds like when Mr. Hughes passed away, that was kind of the end of it. Like he was the champion of it.
He was champion of it. He was backing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he believed in it, but he was backing it. It was probably another one of his investments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another story went out to the New Jersey Meadowlands where the ballparks are now.
Yeah.
That was all landfills.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with those operators. That was a joke. That was something like out of the Sopranos of film. Hey, what are you going to do with this land? I'm not going to allow anybody on my land. All these guys around the table. I met with all the operators. There were about 6 or 7 owners of that whole land, and there were a lot of underworld people.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And that was a joke. They did not even want it. There were no trucks on my land. Nobody digging any holes.
Yeah. They don't want them to find out the lucky up there.
That was funny.
Oh, that's funny.
But
So we were talking about your kids and spending time with them and regrets, and I think we all have things that we think, but when you look at it, you say, well, looks like overall the outcome was good. I was successful. What would you say the hardest part about raising children would be? What's the hardest part?
Well, the hardest part is that you're raising a great child. You have a household, a home, and you know what you're doing in your home, right?
Yeah.
And you try to give them the best food and good clothing, and you try to guide them all the time. And I think the hardest part in my era, growing up with the kids at that time, was the influence of drugs, marijuana primarily at that time, the environment, people, the public knowledge of what's happening, and ability to cope with it. There were so many solutions, but how do you do it? So during my time, I think the solution was, or the problem was, the only thing I feared was the safety of the kids, and that's no easy choice because you don't. When they leave the home, they go out to school, you don't know where they're going to be, who they're going to meet, and sometimes in a weak moment, you can make a wrong decision. And we always told them we were a religious family to begin with, and that definitely plays a role, I think, in the home. And we try to teach them the right things, what's right, what's wrong. Some kids are going to accept it, they're going to assimilate it, but some kids are not going to. They're going to be, especially young teenagers, they're going to be. They don't listen to good information. Yeah. So what their exposure is after they leave the home is really a gamble. And that's the only thing I had to worry about. I felt like I'd lose control, especially when they go to college. You think you lose control, but if you instill in them the basics of doing the right thing, and I think it works out.
Yeah.
Of course, everything is not always equal. There's a lot of variations.
Sure.
I mean, I think you spoil your children with too much, like too much money.
Yeah.
Too much of everything. It's such a fine line.
Yeah.
But the end is that the common denominator is that you have to show in the home respect. If they can see that respect coming through, then they'll respect others. And that's not easy to teach, or even you have to show by example.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we probably did a good job with that.
Yeah. You mentioned being a religious family. What role do you feel that spiritual aspect of things played in your family?
Well, I think it taught them some order of a semblance of order. In other words, everything in its place, and it showed you what respect was, and respect your elders. There's a greater being, and why we believe in God, and what the things we have, our health, and so forth, our parents. It's all tied in together. But we went to church regularly, and that's not necessarily maybe the answer, but you have to show religion. You have to show morality. If they could see that there is morality and it's an important part of life, they then will pass it on to their families, and they'll assimilate that. They'll understand it.
Yeah. I have an interesting question. It's kind of, comes out of 2013 thinking. Our generation thinks a lot about happiness and so forth, and it seems like a funny question from my generation to yours. Talk to me about the whole concept of happiness. How did that play into your decision making, your raising of your children, the values that maybe you imparted upon your children, the role of happiness?
Well, that's a pretty general question.
Yeah, I meant it to be.
It encompasses quite a few areas. But if you think about it, everything starts within the family. And what they see by example is very basic. It's very important. If they see unrest, if they see temptations, if children see you in controversy, that affects their demeanor, affects them personally. If they don't see from the parents love, caring, the small things that mean a lot. You know what I think really breaks up a family? Divorce, when there's separation, morality questions. That's got to destroy a young mind. And that's poison for the mind, I think. But if you could show them, if you can impart to them the importance of being together, you're working as a team. And if you could show them that there's no easy way out, you got to pay your dues. Respect others. Respect your elders. And my children, I have to say, they always respected my parents, the older people. And now I'm getting that from them, from their children. There's a tremendous amount of respect. They call me. They give me a great greeting when they see me. See, these are all things that are important. It sort of meshes everything together. If they can see that togetherness, that's part of it. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but if I touched on.
I guess some of the things that I think about when I think about happiness, sometimes happiness in and of itself is good, but I think if it's a selfish thing where you're, I just want to be happy. So.
Or material-wise, yeah.
Well, whatever.
If you can over-materialize, that's not happiness, right? Is that what you were saying?
Well, I guess I was thinking of, doing what makes me happy as opposed to maybe serving others or you talked about respecting others. I think happiness comes out of those things more than it does just doing what you want to do.
No, happiness is living a nice, tranquil life. Having health, that makes you happy. Yeah. You feel gratitude for what you have, ability to be able to go to work. You have children that succeed, that make you happy, that make you proud. Yeah. Money, financial status, I don't have to give out a high grade, but like the old saying is, you have to have it. But how much do you need really to be happy? You could be flat broke and be happy. So that's, sure. I don't attribute that to completely being happy, but it helps with the odds and ends of life. Sure. Because we are involved in the material world, and everything costs money. Yeah. But these are the things that make up happiness, I think. Yeah. All these things.
So I was just looking at your wedding album in there, and I'm thinking, Okay, fast forward 50, 60 years.
50,
Yeah,
as of the other day.
there you go. Congratulations. What advice would
60,
you
I
give?
mean, I said
Yeah,
50. 60.
60, yeah. What advice? I mean, how does that succeed? How do you what advice do you give to your grandchildren about how to how does that happen?
You know, in today's automated world and everything else world, that's not easy.
Yeah,
You know, sometimes you do less, you come from less, you're better off.
yeah,
When you have too much,
yeah,
that's where the problems come in.
yeah,
Too much.
yeah,
Excesses.
yeah,
Not enough of this, not enough of that.
yeah,
Not enough women, not enough this.
yeah.
That's what it is. What was your question? I think I got lost in it, but
Yeah, well, I think advice about marriage. How do you?
Oh,
what
marriage.
What are those ingredients you look for in a spouse? What are
Well,
those things that you think are important?
I was very fortunate. The girl I married was really comes from a great family. When you marry someone, and this is something to tell the children, and I always tell my children, I told them, look at the wife, look where she came from, look at her family, look at the members of that family, and that gives you an idea what you're going to be doing,
Yeah,
because it's important. If you like them, if you don't like them, you can't get along with them now, well, you don't take the big step. I mean, you say, well, it's only me and my wife. No, when you marry the whole family.
yeah,
You marry everybody in that family from the ground up. The whole thing, the traditions, the feeling, the whole works.
yeah,
So if you can do that, and you can pick the girl that you really like, and she has all the qualities you want, and her family and all are in accord, and there's no problems, then your chances of surviving are good.
yeah,
You know, another important thing comes into the picture is health.
yeah,
You have to be sure your spouse that you intend to marry is healthy.
yeah,
You know, you get married because you're in love, and it's important. But you have to look into the family history. I always tell my children, look into the family history.
yeah,
Not that you want to discredit anybody, but if they have a chronic condition, a problem, that may surface with you, with your offspring, and that may cause problems in the future.
yeah,
You're not going to marry a perfect person, a perfect chemically or mechanically put together person, but look for some of the problems.
sure. Now, if Marianne was able to talk to us today, because she's not able to communicate as well as she once was, what would she say about that, about the secret of marriage, or what advice do you think she would give?
I think her words also, she's a God-loving person, and she would know that if you are going to have a life together, and you have to have respect is important, and you have to love each other, and you have to show them that you want to be with them. That's what she would tell you.
Yeah.
And you're compatible. You have to be compatible. And you have to be willing to give and willing to take. And you have to have you can't have a short fuse. And Marianne is very tolerant. She's tolerant, because if she were not, I think we'd be in trouble. But she has all those qualities that and the basic thing, I think, because she's very religious too.
Yeah,
That's imparted right into the whole situation.
yeah, yeah. I think I've hit all my questions. Is there anything that you felt like thinking about this? Boy, I wished he'd asked me this, or I wished he'd asked me that.
Well, I think I talked a lot, but I don't know.
Well,
I think I'm getting hoarse.
Hours, but
I think I could talk and write a book, but the idea is, I've often been asked the question, how did you do it, Art?
yeah,
How did you do this? You have 2 doctors, a lawyer, and a nurse, nurse director. I said,
yeah.
you know, you have all professionals. I said, look, it's not done by osmosis. It's not done by trick. I said, it's done with hard work. I said, you know what? I'll just give you 2 words. Stay home. In other words, when you're married, you stay home. You don't run around like a nut. Okay. You don't join every club there is. You and your wife are going to weekends. You're going here. You're going there. You stay home with the kids. You want to be with them.
yeah,
And, you know, we gave up a lot of things in our life just to stay home. We could have taken a lot of trips. We could have gone somewhere. We could have gone on cruises, and we did none of that.
Yeah.
We did it in moderation, but you asked me that question. I said, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You stay home with the kids and
Yeah.
do the homework with them
Yeah.
and show them you care. That's all the kids want. They want a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's what I say.
You know, I was thinking, I forgot about this question. I wanted to ask you, I don't know what it would be like, but what is it like to go to an Eagles game and see your son down there? He's the team doctor for the Philadelphia Eagles. What is that like?
Well, it's like this. It brought tears in my eyes. I'm a teary guy.
Yeah.
I'm emotional. I admit it. But when I see that guy, a little guy that I remember is running around here, and he grew up to be a medical doctor, but he has achieved so much. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say more than that. That like, even last night, that affair, I just couldn't get along without getting very emotional.
Sure.
All those people saying those nice things.
Yeah.
But
And
he's been
very
that
prominent people saying very genuine.
genuine,
nice
and they're
things.
prominent. They're not just voicing a lot of hot air. These people, and you know what? It's true. Even though he is my son, he's a very good guy. He's a personal guy, and he cares for you.
Yeah.
Just like he does with a friend
Yeah.
or a patient, and with his parents. He's always worried about me, about his mother. He still is.
Yeah.
He's married, but he still worries about us.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't let me drive home last night from over there.
Yeah.
I said, but I didn't drink.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of those things. He said, no, we have to drive you home. I mean, he's on a trip somewhere. He calls me up, see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
He's always been that way. And very caring, very caring. And when I saw him on the field as a team doctor, well, that was utopia. That was the best.
Yeah.
That's what else can you hope for?
Yeah. Sure. Other proud moments in your life that you think back and say, "Wow, that was a moment when I realized that things were good. I did a good job."
Yeah, there are too many to name. Too many,
Yeah.
too numerous.
Yeah. Give me a few. Graduations.
When he graduated from Brown summa cum laude, whew, that was too much. I said, Art, it's amazing. How did you do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. And other moments, I mean, you know, when he got his medical degree, that was a moment, right?
Yeah.
Another moment was when he graduated from medical school, and my dad, boy, too bad he lived to be 96, my dad. So I can't say he was shortchanged.
Yeah.
But he said, Art, he says, you got to be a doctor. And he said, I'm so proud of you. You're in medical school. You did it. I'm happy. He said, but you have to graduate. You have to graduate. This is before, but he said, I want to see that paper. Or I want to be there for that paper. Here's the guy, 95, 96. And every time Art saw him, he would say at Christmas or whatever, I'm getting the paper. I'm getting the paper. So at graduation at San Diego, Art, we have a photo. Art came up to him and gave him the paper. Oh God, that was that was really tear producing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a very tender moment.
Yeah.
And my father was he was all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
So you've had a lot of moments like that. You got to see Elise become a nurse.
Oh, Elise was Elise is such a sweet child. She has always given the family a lot of stability too, by her ways. She's very considerate. She chose the field well when she decided to go into nursing, because she is a very considerate person, and she holds the family together a lot. She creates a lot of activities that bring us together a lot, and she's always in there. Works about with her mother's always here caring, and she has been really beautiful.
Yeah. And then I was thinking about the day at the pool when the fat envelope arrived. That was probably a proud moment.
Oh God, for Maria, that was everything. But like I said, Maria was an all-around person. She was a New England All-American, and she was a great student. And I never saw her study that much.
Yeah.
She was just, thank God, it was just a natural ability.
Yeah.
and she study on the bus. They're going on a trip, and she's got a little flashlight. She's studying.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Maria? What are you studying over? Close
Yeah.
those books. We're on a trip.
Yeah.
And maybe over there, I got a test Monday.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Then
I like-
you have Fabian, who becomes an engineer, which in and of itself is
Oh, that was
a
amazing, too.
huge accomplishment.
That's a fave. How'd you get through all that math? How'd you
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah.
I was very poor. Math was not my favorite course, but that's a fave. All that math is amazing.
Yeah. And then I can't help but saying that I thought it was very funny. He comes to you and he says he wants to go to law school. And when you were telling the story, I guess you've been through this so many times with the kids that it didn't faze you. When he said that, he said, well, of course he wants to go to law school.
Yeah, so what? Maria was the first one that said that when she was working in the store.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I can't blame you. Because she says, you know what, Dad? This job is boring. She said, I'm counting pills and all that. I said, it's okay, but it's a boring job. I want to go into medicine. Because I guess in handling prescriptions, you keep talking to doctors and everything, right?
Yeah.
And she loved it. She was ready to go to medicine. And she sailed through medical school.
Yeah.
She sailed through it because she loved it. She was really, really into medicine. And today she thrives, and she's a great anesthesiologist.
Yeah. Art and I have a thing. He always tells me this, and I always think about it. His grandmother used to always tell him that life is but a glance through the window. And
Yeah.
she would say that in Italian. I don't know how to say it. You
Yeah.
probably do.
La vida è un sguardo alla finestra. My mother had more sayings. As a matter of fact, she had so many of them. I wrote them down. I put them in books. I have them in my books. Different sayings. Now, I don't know if from the old country or where they're from, but a lot of these things are really, really deep in meaning. And if you analyze them, they're true,
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like she was a very, very good cook, and my children loved everything she made, and just great all around. And we loved it. We loved just being together with family all the time.
Yeah.
And she would say these different things.
Yeah.
And Arthur, being what Arthur is, he's an aggressive type guy.
Yeah.
He wants to know what she said and what it means. And
Yeah.
he uses these little sayings.
Yeah.
And I even heard him repeat a few of these to people. And it's amazing.
Yeah. So my question to you is: today we've had a chance to look through the window of your life, and do you like what you see?
Yeah, I love it. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's getting a little late. And I feel bad about that because I feel like it's a long journey, and I don't want to get off the bus. Like, I want to stay on it. But life is life. And I can see with Marianne, I know she's having agony, just not being able to be who she is. But that's what you do in life. But, I have no regrets because I think the Lord has really blessed our family.